I no longer think you should learn to code, says CEO of AI company Replit right here, as you can see. And this tweet right here has spread like wildfire over the past 5 days. 7 million views, 11K hearts, a whole lot of retweets. It has been very interesting to say the least. I don't know if y'all are on X, but if you are, give me a follow. Instead of learning how to code, Replit CEO Amjad Masad says, learn how to think, learn how to break down problems, learn how to communicate clearly. And this is not a unique statement, particularly by AI CEOs, but by a lot of other individuals as well. First things first is AI CEOs saying AI is the end all be all, so listen to me, and then also you're going to have to pay me in order to do your job. You have to take it with a grain of salt, especially when, their company is in fact hiring for software engineers, as you can see right here. So that's a bit contradictory, is it not? Yes, but no. Hypocritical maybe would be the right word. But the thing is, I never really liked this argument because this was going around all the time when Anthropic CEO said 90 to 100% of all code written will be written by AI within the next 6 to 12 months. And people interpreted that as, oh, all software engineers will be replaced in the next 6 to 12 months. Yeah, that's kind of crazy. Then look at all of these software engineering jobs that you have. Why are you hiring all of these software engineers at Anthropic if, they're just going to be obsolete in the next 6 to 12 months? But the way I interpreted it, and I think the way that it was actually meant, is a lot of code right now is already being written by AI, or should I say with AI by software engineers. Some are prompting, some are tab, tab, tab. You type in a couple words, maybe a line of code, it outputs the rest of the code block for you. That's AI writing the code. So in that context, I did not like the oh, well, look at all these software engineering jobs because, the software engineers are still the ones using the AI to help them write code, but the software engineers have the overall understanding of the infrastructure and how it plug and plays and doing all of the debugging and things of that nature. They never said that 90 to 100% of the code would be good code. It still needs to be debugged. You see what I'm saying? However, this is a little bit different. This is, I no longer think you should learn to code, period, whereas they are hiring software engineers at their company. So what does that mean? Does that mean in the interview process, they're telling the software engineers applying for these jobs, yeah, so we are hiring you right now, but we are probably going to lay you off within the next 1 to 2 years thanks to the code that you're writing because, AI is going to replace your job. Because if you don't think somebody should learn to code, you're saying that it's really not going to be of much use within the next 1 to 2 to 3 years. Whereas he could have made the argument here for software engineers as, oh, well, we need the software engineers now, but in a couple years from now, we won't, which is why you don't need to learn to code now. You see where that gets a little bit dicey? So in other words, is the CEO of this company saying that these jobs are going to be obsolete in the next few years? Well, I did see another tweet, which is this one he just kind of doubled down on. I understand all the cope. It was hard to arrive at this conclusion. There are obvious domain exceptions, but the trend is hard to miss. Between my open source work, Code Academy, Replit, I popularized learning to code more than anyone else. A good chunk of my life's work, bittersweet. But again, he doesn't clarify until somebody actually asks him. I do think that understanding how software is structured and all of the pieces involved, APIs, auth, etc., is important because I find myself having a lot of blind spots when trying to improve debug stuff that I build. Would you agree with this? And it sounds like he would say no, but he says yes, of course, especially since you often have to pay for these pieces, but you don't need to know that null is an object in JavaScript. So that kind of gets down to what he really thinks of, I no longer think you should learn to code, or at least my interpretation of it based on this response right here. Because look, as much as I know y'all want me to dunk on the guy, and I can, since he was obviously baiting here, I no longer think you should learn to code because he didn't elaborate and then doubling down saying cope harder because he didn't clarify, but he did finally clarify right here. The way I read this, and I don't know if he thinks of it this way, I don't want to give him credit for my conclusion here, but I will say that what I think is that AI will be just another level of abstraction for programmers. See, this is how I currently see it. This is abstraction right here. Computers understand machine code. They do not understand JavaScript and Rust and Java. It all goes back to machine code. It's binary, zeros and ones. That's how it understands it. But we don't write code in that. So what did they do? Oh, they started using assembly. Assembly is a layer of abstraction to hide the complexity of machine code. And then on top of assembly, to hide some layers of complexity there, would be low-level languages like C. And then on top of C, we have C++, and Rust, and Java, and Python. I'm not saying every single one of the high-level languages are made with C, but it is a higher level of abstraction, another layer of abstraction for what came before. And some of these are directly written in C. And then on top of these high-level languages, we have frameworks and libraries as another layer of abstraction. We are getting closer and closer to human understanding of what's going on just to make things easier and easier. That's what all of these layers of abstraction are working towards. They're hiding complexity in order to make it more readable, to make code easier for the human to write. And what's the easiest? It's English. So where this is trending is something a little bit like this, all the way to AI, which is human language. And then there's even more abstraction that kind of branches off. I mean, I wouldn't consider it like inline abstraction, which would be, yeah, something like this. Runtime environments, VMs, things of that nature, which does add another layer of abstraction because the code runs in like a sandbox environment or handles memory and security and other things that you aren't seeing. It is hiding lower level complexity by providing a simplified interface or doing it on its own. But here's the thing, is that when it comes to high level languages, let's say it comes to JavaScript, why do you learn all of these different sorting algorithms when all you have to do is .sort? And that's the method that you use. I mean, it does sort. It is kind of, pretty easy to use, but you're going to be able to use it better and use it in more ways if you understand what it's doing. If you have the understanding of what's beneath this level of abstraction, some of those more complex topics, you're going to be a better developer. You're going to be better at doing what you do, right? So why wouldn't you need to know that null is an object in JS? Saying this right here assumes that you will never have to go into the code base of whatever you are prompting in plain human language. It makes the assumption that every single thing from writing the code to debugging, the entire code base will effectively not be code anymore. Just like right now, our code base is not assembly. It's not C. Even if it is C++, we don't see that C language. We see inspiration from it and things of that nature. Actually, I like this example the best. What language is Python written in? C. How many of you Python programmers are C programmers? You're not. You don't see this low-level language. You only see Python, right? So this would go in favor of his argument, correct? Where, just like in Python, you don't need to know C, even though that's what's underneath it. Here, it'll be English, so you don't need to understand JavaScript. You see what I said right there? That is kind of, that people with this mindset, that's what they're insinuating, is that Python, JavaScript, Java, C++, React, Next.js, all of these, Svelte, all of these frameworks in high-level languages and libraries will never be seen again, and the entire code base will be human language. That is how this transfers one-to-one from low-level language to high-level language, from high-level language or frameworks to human language, where you wouldn't need to understand what is below the surface there. And this is me extrapolating, but this is not like some unfounded, let me go off on this tangent and try to find some threads that are connected and things of that nature. That's quite literally what he's saying. If you do not need to learn to code, you do not need to understand what is going on in JavaScript, which implies you don't need to understand the syntax, implies that everything is just going to be plain human language, English, Spanish, whatever. And that is really the sticking point for me, because understanding the complexities right now of what lies beneath whatever layer of abstraction you're on helps you do whatever you're doing. Understanding C and how it works and having to manually write all of the code instead of just doing a dot sort or just, manually creating all of these specific data structures instead of just, using a vec in Rust or whatever. Understanding how they work allows you to use them in a better way. I do agree that you won't need to pick, should I use a vec here? Should I use a slice here? What data structure should I use? Or what kind of algorithm should I use? Already you can kind of have the AI choose what the best data structure or, sorting algorithm or what have you that you need. But will entire code bases just be plain human language? That is the question. That's the question. Will we completely overwrite the current layer of abstraction with a new one being plain language? And this DHH, his sentiment is effectively my sentiment. Now, I haven't been on this little blue dot for 45 years now. I've only been on it for 30, but he's seen computers go from seen the internet rise in the 90s, mobile in the 2000s, and this is the first time I felt I have no clue what the world will look like in 4 years. Exhilarating time to be alive. So what do y'all think? Do you think it's going to, human language will just be the new layer of abstraction? Or do you think it'll kind of like go over, 100% of the code is being written by AI in the next year or two, and then 3 to 4 years, only half is written by AI because humans are coming back and fixing all of their mistakes? It just depends on the progress of artificial intelligence. And with all of the backing from all of the biggest companies throwing billions of dollars at it, it's likely that it'll continue to grow, right? So what do you think?